Hearthstone.
What's going on, Internet? Samwise here from Kaiju Hunters. Been playing a lot of Warrior this week. The game's been giving me 2 rounds of win 5 games with a Warrior daily quests. And I didn't really get a lot in my booster pack openings to get a really solid Warrior deck going. So I started running with the idea of how many commons would it take to make a solid sort of low level Warrior deck that I could run in the dailies. For the moment, at least. So I started looking for things for lists that were like 10 commons or less. Not a lot of those on the internet. A lot of people seem to think that budget decks is as many commons as you want and also a bunch of rares, but if you're trying to get into Hearthstone to begin with, you're probably going to come up against one of those quests as well, and you're going to need to put together a fairly solid deck very quickly. And commons are still kind of cheap to craft. You can always get some arcane dust out of something. Sort of build all the commons that you need for this deck, and you've probably got some already. So let's open it up here. Currently I've got an 8 common warrior list, which is the one that I've sort of settled on for the moment. I did have a 6 common version to start with, but it needed an extra bit of oomph. I went on like a 5-game losing streak with it, and I really just had to redo the list. And I went all the way up to 10 commons, and like that was sort of too much. Like there's too much different sort of tech, and I think this version's sort of like a nice mild synergy going on with the list. So let's start the lowest cost. Execute. Kill a guy. You're gonna unlock this card through leveling up your warrior anyway. Enough said. Damage a minion. Kill it with this thing. It's a bit of a 1 for 2 kind of situation. I suppose for 2 for 1ing, which most people want to do with most of the cards in the deck, but you're going to come up against big things that you're going to want to kill. And this thing will kill everything, as long as there's a bit of damage on it. Fiery War Axe. Very, very good removal. 3 power is enough to kill a bunch of the stuff that people are running in the meta. It's not like there's not a very rush-heavy meta going on. It's just sort of, you know, stuff that's got 3 health or more, so that this thing's going to take out like a Shattered Sun Cleric, or even, you know, like a Fairy Dragon, something like that. But it just gives you a bit more reach. I did run a Wrathy Weaponsmith for a while here, and I just found that a 2/2 weapon wasn't really enough, and also you're basically paying 4 mana for a 2/2 weapon, so it's going to be a little bit later before you can play it. But this thing, this Fiery War Axe is just great. Like I'd run it out fairly early. You can just sort of sit there. Just to use whenever I needed it. So yeah, auto-include I would say in most warrior decks these days. Battle Rage. I didn't run Battle Rage for a while, but it is an incredibly key card. I didn't expect it would be that powerful, but most of the time you're just going to draw 2 cards off of it. Drawing one's kind of bad because you just sort of damage yourself, and if you keep the field clean, you're probably going to have some damage minion of some kind. I've tuned the deck to sort of have minions that can take damage and hold the damage on themselves rather than just sort of be weak enough to be killed by anything. So drawing 2 from Battle Rage is fairly solid, fairly common. If you can get 3 cards, even better. 4 is probably an impossibility. If you're drawing 4, then you've got enough guys out that your opponent's probably gonna you're gonna beat your opponent anyway. But yeah, Battle Rage. You're gonna use this in any warrior deck anyway, so craft it anyway. Cleave. Most decks I haven't seen using Cleave too much, but Cleave's just great for just smacking some things for 2 damage. I'd probably remove it later on and put in some slams. But again, I wanted to keep the common count kind of low, and then like hitting 2 things is better than hitting 1, but the card draw kind of offsets that. So, but you're gonna unlock Cleave anyway. It's a free card. Heroic Strike is technically the 3rd weapon in the deck. It's sort of a 1-hit kill a guy for 4 damage, but it also works well with the other weapons, giving you a 7 power Fiery War Axe or a 9 power Arcanite Reaper, and that's a 9 power Arcanite Reaper that can kill a Ysera or take a 1/3 of an opponent's health. So really liking Heroic Strike, to be honest. Again, not seeing many decks that run it themselves, but in this deck I think it works alright. Acidic Swamp Ooze, again, didn't run it for a while, but it's just incredibly valuable. Again, like some of the other basic unlock cards that you you'll see in this deck, like, it's gonna destroy a weapon, and there's not much else in the game that does that. If your opponent, I've killed like gore howls with this. It's been really awesome. But you know, even if you're not playing against a opponent that's running weaponry, like a druid or something, you can just get the 6 Swampoos out there on turn 2 and just have it sit there, and your opponent will probably deal with it in some way or another. Like they'll shift focus to it, and because it's a 3/2 for 2, and that's pretty good value. A lot of stuff with 3 power, 3 health in the meta right now that this thing can kill. Next up, Cruel Taskmaster. The next common on the deck, very good. Sort of a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a minion. The dealing 1 damage thing I've used to kill my opponent's minions, but also a nice little combo piece of, you know, triggering and enrage, and stacking some attack power on top of it is really good. Sort of giving another minion that you have enrage off of him is really good. So why not? And also the 1 damage lets you set up, you know, battle rages. The 1 damage you can use on your opponent's minions to set up and execute. Again, just sort of a Swiss Army knife of a card. Raging Worgen. Why not? Raging Worgen is amazing. You don't want your opponent to have a Raging Worgen, so he would not like you to have a Raging Worgen. So, and again, like setting up with Cruel Taskmaster, that's a 6 power minion with Wind Fury that your opponent's not going to like very much, especially if he hasn't got anything out in front of him. Which hopefully, you know, if you've got a clean board and you've got a Cruel Taskmaster or a Rage Worgen on our next card, Warsong Commander, that's a nice 8 mana combo for 12 damage, and also getting a couple extra guys out there. Warsong Commander is really key in the deck. Just setting up all sorts of combos just to put you back into pace with your opponent, or over the top, hopefully. You'll maybe have games where your opponent will ignore Warsong Commander, and that's not very good for them. You want to kill a Warsong Commander if you see one against you, but you also want to try and protect your own as well. So there's not a lot of taunt in the deck, but if you set her up with a more powerful threat, like her and a Chilling Yeti for 7 mana, or her and a Raging Worgen for 6, your opponents probably want to deal with the other minion before they deal with her, and in which case everything else you're playing after that is going to have charge anyway, so you're getting extra value out of her. Chilling Yeti, of course. Didn't run him for a while, but he's really good. He's a lot better than I expected. Most people disregard him because he doesn't have any text on him, but 4/5 for 4 mana is really good, and again, he's one of those creatures that can sort of retain some damage on him and still be valuable, so you can set up Battle Rage plays, and 4 power is good enough to hit a fair amount of things in the game. Corcoran Elite's sort of like a Chilling Yeti that's got charge. It's basically what he is. I just needed the deck to be a little more faster, so he sort of takes place of the Arathi Weaponsmith that I mentioned earlier. Arathi Weaponsmith was kind of bogging down the deck. I kind of found that having her in my hand, I had a queue of weaponry, rather than a solid stream of minions to do things. So I couldn't really play her if I had an Arcanite Reaper out. And if I had my Arcanite Reaper out, my Reaper was just sort of sitting there waiting to remove something good. So I couldn't play the Weaponsmith at all. But Corcoran Elite's the same comparison, and it gets out there for 4 damage, and it's got charge. So it's very solid, and it's basic unlock, so you're going to get it anyway. Spellbreaker is an all-round good common that you're going to want. Silence is a very powerful effect. It's going to, you know, it'll take down taunt creatures that your opponent sets up, because most of the time when you're playing taunt creatures, you're only going to have 1 or 2. So this way you can get rid of the best one and put stuff through, or get rid of some ridiculous minion that your opponent's got going. The Owl, I did not ever consider running it, just because it's so weak. But having like a 4 power silence guy is really good. There's not a ton, like, or where the hell is it? It's in here somewhere. There he is, Iron Beak Carol. Come late game, you'd much rather draw a Spellbreaker than an Iron Beak Owl, and Iron Beak Owl dies to 1 power hero spells, mages and druids and all that shit. So Spellbreaker's really good. Arcanite Reaper, staple warrior card. Not a lot of 5 power weapons in the game yet, but it's a good swing. It's a good swing. Gurubashi Berserker, another free card. Again, sort of the same. I put him in the same time as the Chillwind Yeti, just to sort of raise the amount of health of the creatures in the deck. And again, Kurubashi Berserker sort of sits there and looks really, really imposing. You combo him with our Swiss Army Knife, Cruel Taskmaster, and he's getting 7 power. He'll be a 7/6 in no time. And of course, you know, running that with a Warsong Commander as well is just good, because it's one last turn your opponent gets to deal with him before he hits. And finally, at the top of the list, Lord of the Arena. After watching the Invitational this weekend, I sort of realized what most of the players were preaching, that all the taunt creatures, all the basic taunt creatures, are really, really bad. And most people want to run solid minions and then also run Sun Fury Protectors and where is Defender of Argus? Run these guys instead, because it gives you a better taunt creature than you would normally get, and these guys are fairly kind of cheap to set up some good plays, and if you play your cards right, you're going to get 2 taunt creatures that are fairly better than every other regular taunt creature. But since this is a budget deck, I did not ever really consider running Dread Corsair either, because again he's another common, but 4 mana for 3 power is not very good, especially in a deck that doesn't have a queue of weapons in your hand. You're going to play a weapon and sort of wait a while and maybe get another, so you don't want to pay 4 mana for a 3/3 taunt pretty much ever. But Lord of the Arena, he's a solid kind of beater. I would prefer not to run him, but he's a free card, you're going to get one anyway. There isn't really much other options. I did also at one point run the Booty Bay Bodyguard, but I found this to be incredibly weak, because 4 power, like a Chillwind Yeti is just going to run into this thing and get rid of it, and that's a cheaper minion than this. So, Lord of the Arena was the choice, just because there's less things that can kill him, and the deck works really well at just sort of waiting until the late game. Like, you might... I've won games where my opponent's been at 30 health, and I've been down to 10, and you just sort of grind the shit out of them, and then play all your stuff in the late game, and hopefully they don't have as good a late game plan as you do. So that's the deck. 8 commons costs you 320 dust. I did not have to spend 320 dust. I had to build, I think, the Battle Rages. Everything else is sort of opened, and I think there was maybe something else I had to craft. Oh, the Raging Morgans, yeah. I only opened one of them from my booster run. But, you know, you can get 320 dust fairly easily. The game gives you 95 if you dust something, and you're going to get a bunch of dust out of Arena, which you're probably playing Arena. You're playing Hearthstone, you're playing Arena, and you're doing this constructed stuff on the side to get money to do more Arena. So, you know, this is a fairly, very, very cheap deck that you can build just to sort of get some dailies out of the way. I think I'll maybe do this for a bunch of other classes as well. I'm going to come up against those dailies at some point and not have a solid deck to put down. And I'd much prefer to put down something like this rather than a mishmash of sort of the best cards for the class. Just because I prefer the consistency a bit better than a mishmash of, you know, rares and stuff that I don't have 2 copies of, and that doesn't play into the synergy. It just appears powerful. So I'm going to do a couple of games. If you check out links in the description, you can see this deck in action. I'll maybe put up like 3 good ones and talk about the deck while I'm running it. But that's it for now. Like, comment, subscribe for more videos. Check back later. More Hearthstone videos will happen because this game's amazing, and I love it so much. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you've got any suggestions for the deck and all that stuff. Thanks. Bye.